Oh, welcome everyone. This is Mohammed from Goalreify. I'm excited for this fireside chat on artistry in mobile games, and we have incredibly talented Gabriela. So, why don't you introduce yourself, Gabriela?
Thank you, Mohammed. I'm so glad to be here. Very happy to have this chat with you all. And yes, I'm Gabriela. I'm an artist. I work as an art director for a couple of years, kind of 4 years. And yes, I'm started my career in different environments, so we can talk about that as well.
Awesome. That's great. So, I mean, we really have a very short time, so I guess we should really talk lot many topics, right? So, to get started, right? So, you've been an artist, and then you've been doing a lot of traditional animation and stuff like that, right? And then you transition your career into game art, which is that too onto mobile side of it, right? So this technology shift, what sort of challenges you faced, and how did you transition from a traditional approach to a typical digital approach?
Yeah, so I'm going to give you a kind of a background about me so the audience can understand how was that. So my mom started with very traditional studies as a fine art, academy, so drawings, etc. So I always was very, motivated with animation, and especially with the 2D traditional animation. So I work as an animator for a couple of years, and then I changed completely. So I'm I'm from Argentina, South America, and when I finished my studies, I moved to Spain. So then, of course,
Oh,
all my contacts that were in Argentina was like missing, no, at that time.
yeah.
So I
Yeah.
started then in Madrid, starting to do contacts and show my portfolio. And then I decided to not go into animation, so that was another thing. So I started as illustrator or as a background painter, children books illustrations as well. So mixing digital and also traditional media. And then, of course, this was like each of the steps that I took was totally new. You comment about challenges and also the transition with the technology. You had to imagine that from my background as a traditional fine art, formation, from a total digital thing, in a moment when the technology was growing, I was in this transition. So I was born in the 75. So if you see from now, there's a lot of
Yeah.
things that happen,
Right.
right? So
Right.
I remember when I took my first job as a painter for backgrounds for animation movies. I also didn't have a lot of knowledge about Photoshop. So and the same happened with all the things that I start. So everything that I get, there was a new things on the technology. So and I have to adapt. Basically, because I love art, I love the challenge, and I love to put myself in different circumstances. But it's one thing that I always was in my mind is I want to live from the art. I want to live with the things I create. So I need to survive doing whatever is there. No, and I had to adapt to the technology. So that was a very good, I think, moment when I finish a project or a contract for a project, and then I had to see what is next. And in Madrid was an amazing period, and I was a lot of years there. And then I discovered that I also can do concept art. Also, I could do storyboarding. I also can do, visual development. So I started to search for those projects, and that was the point. And when was the possibility to do concept art for video games, and
Oh,
that was the transition. So my mom started as a concept artist. We developed many games, and then of course I started from zero there. So
Yeah.
starting like to understand what means the video game, the genre I was working for, like graphic novels, puzzle games, casual puzzle games, and that was time of the PC development. So and then in
Right.
a moment that there started to appear the devices. For now, the devices we have is like
Yeah.
something normal, no? But then it's something that was appear like explosion of creativity and the iPad appears, everything was new, so a new adaptation was there. I don't know if you have a question that I can
Yeah.
continue.
No, I mean, I just have obviously the
Yes,
following. I mean, the follow up is like, I mean, I have a lot of questions with regards to that itself. Imagine for a new artist getting hands on to latest tools, but I would like to touch on that later. But before that, I would like to ask one thing. So let's imagine if somebody has to work on a new game, for instance, yourself, for that matter, if you're working on a new game, right? So what's your creative process? I mean, how do you take an approach? What all gets into it when you are looking and thinking from an art direction perspective?
all right. I think the knowledge I collect from the experience was in the entire experience when I started working the video game industry. At the first time, when I was collaborating, working as a concept artist, there was kind of very specific things, right? But then when I moved to King and I worked like 9 years in King, the things were kind of more into the idea itself for the games and the mechanics. So this is another transition that I faced to understand the mechanic, the complexity of the engagement with the players, with the visuals, with the gender. So starting that a new universe. So I think the period that I live in Kin and also with ex-colleagues, we took like the company gives like a kind of a university because in the old time that we there, we create a lot of stuff. Going to your question, how we start. It is important to know, for example, what is going to be our target, what we are going to develop, right? Because also on the technology, right? It is going to be from the different platforms as well, right? So to start with concepts, maybe I can give some kind of tips depending on how we start.
So I'll
Right.
chip in
So,
here just
yeah.
to add a flavor to the question. So imagine there's a case where somebody is creating an IP for global outreach,
Yes.
considering, I mean, I'm taking a reference here from Kings itself. So that has global audience. But from a global perspective, a lot of cultural insensitivity, right? So different cultures approach to art in a different way, the way they consume it, right? So if somebody is trying to create something of that IP, right? So what are your tips for them? What should be the processes that they should have?
All right. So first, I will say that I can answer from casual game experience.
Yeah,
If you
yeah,
see how is the trends now, we have this kind of colorful, appealing visuals, right? So this can be maybe a direction, but for me, it's more important to analyze how you are going to connect the mechanic with a small narrative, a
yeah,
character, maybe, or something that is going to give a connection with the player. If you see the games that they are now, very popular, the attachment that players has is because there's some relation with some small story with the characters, and then you have a mechanic that is very addictive in a way that it is you never you want to continue, right? You wanted to achieve and have the sensation that you make the right movements, and you are a great player, and you are learning through the process. From the question about how is the starting point, I will say there's a lot of exploration of mechanic, and we are not at the beginning. We are not focused on the final art. We are looking for the mechanic. And then, of course, when that is working, when we see that our audience, our players are fascinated with this, is when you're really going to think about the theme and the rest of the elements. Because doing in a different way is going to be a loss of time and energy. The cost is going to be increased. We needed to set a base and exploring the basis of the game. And then, of course, when everything is there, it's good to go. Then we explore on the aesthetics. To explore about the art, we sometimes we test how it's going to be the theme. So this based in a lot of on testing with players, testing with
Right.
what is in the market that can be a difference or can be something similar because it's a use or a trend. So that is going to be one of the lines. I don't say this is exactly the line because that is depend of what is the project the companies or the teams wanted to do.
Okay, awesome. I mean, like, you spent 9 years almost with King, so that's almost quite a decade, right? So, and you worked quite many IPs over there. So, considering that, imagine if somebody has to work for such a long time, how do they get the fresh
Yes.
ideas? How do they generate fresh ideas? A. B is like, if when you're working on something for such a long time, how do you deal with challenges? Because there is always somewhere you get blocked with your creativity, right? So
I mean, I don't think that the creativity is blocked. I mean, the artists are based on our creativity, and everybody is creative in a way. So everybody has the creativity. So, so the thing is, so I will talk with my case of a kind of 8 years and a half, 9 years in King. There's examples of other people that are like long time in one company. The thing in my case is that I was transferred for different projects. I was starting in one game, then moved to another game, then moved to another game, and that is something that is like the times when I was working in other projects. So it's the ending of one project. So then you focus in another project with another, components and goals and challenge on the art and on the technical side. Also, the challenge are because if we advance on time, the technology as well is going to change, and the audience is going to change, and everything is changing in the time. So
yeah,
it is never a point that is exactly the same. It's like a river, there's like something
right,
you are standing in the same place, yes, but no, it's not the same. So, and also in all these years, what I have the opportunity to do is put myself in different roles and in working with different kind of skills. I didn't have any idea about UI, so mom
oh,
started. So the thing is, I started to work so focused on UI, analyzing games, be more into that we create like a lot of learnings inside, the projects, and then you start to do research and documentations based on that. What else? Then, of course, when you are advancing in your skill and in your experience, you also are going to upgrade you in your career. So it means that
right,
I'm started as a game artist.
yeah,
Then I'm a great as senior. Then
the progression, yeah,
as lead, and then with the lead and all management, there's open new things. So starting from zero again, learning what is the the powerful of good management setup. So learning on that is going to sit completely. So that's
Right.
the I think the good thing that when you are a lot of time in one company, that you have the possibility to not doing the same thing always. If you
Right.
are in a one company and you only have to do the same things, you are not
Yeah.
growing. This is boring. If you see that
Right. Right.
something is boring, you have to escape.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. The
the
needle has to keep moving.
exactly. The thing is motivate me in this industry, and I think that is something that maybe the audience now is curious about, is that the industry gives a lot of possibilities of do different things in
Right.
different ways and test yourself in different skills. Yes.
Right. Awesome. So, just a follow-up question here, from a context of live ops, for that matter. I mean, this is specifically, considering. I mean, I personally, being from India, and
Ah,
I mean, India has almost 700 million mobile gamers, approximately, right? So, and Indian studios produce a lot of content on mobile. So now, if you imagine somebody is working on live ops, and a project which is basically quite having a longer life, so for them, what are your tips, how they can basically get fresh ideas, create better content, get the engagement and retention going?
yes, that's a very interesting point, because of course a game can be have a solid mechanic, and the players love to play that game and they are very engaged. But it's true that when you do this side content or events, live ops, you add a lot of novelty in the experience, and then you are going to be engaged of do more things.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that depends on how is going to be the conversation in the teams, because that's is kind of agreement of what are the things we need in the game to do a fast live ops, and
Yeah.
optimization of the assets, and the structure of running different live ops is just a very good topic. So the artists also needed to understand that to produce content, as you said, that with
Right.
this velocity, we needed to be very clever on how we produce, right? I don't know if I answer. I see that we
Yeah.
have some
Yeah, 5 minutes. Yeah. So timer is ticking. So
very
I'll
fun.
just
Yes.
so we'll just take one. I mean, I have one point which is very, very critical, I feel, as of now in the current trend. I mean, essentially from the aspect of future of game art, essentially considering this mid journey or scenario layer AI. So these kind of tools are there. So what is the significance of artists, essentially, especially the concept artist, who basically, where mid journey or kind of these things are going to be replacing, is what chatter is, right?
Okay, I will say that we don't need to be afraid of the technology. We need it to be close to the technology, understand the technology, and incorporate the technology. So you see that through my career, there's kind of a lot of changes, a lot of changes. Sometimes we are reacting because it's something that maybe we feel like, oh no, no, we artists, we are going to be replaced. The thing is, and it's something that we have inside our, like a divine gift we have, is our creativity.
Right.
So this is something that we needed to emphasize, that when we have an ideas, how we transfer these ideas. And if I have to do a
Right.
concept for transfer this idea or use an AI tool, it's the same, because
Right.
the important, the essential is the idea. It's very
Cool.
good
Perfect.
things about the AI, because now, for example, we can prototype very fast using assets
Hmm.
and generate a lot of version of assets and have a feeling that the art is kind of final, and we can have testing different things with this tool. So this is kind of a good thing that I see.
Yeah, yeah, sure. So I guess we should jump on to the audience questions probably, because as we just have a couple of minutes left for us. So first question here from Antonia. How do you strike the right balance between artistic freedom and the practical constraints from a game design, constraints of game design?
Oh, okay. Okay. So good question. So going to be a long thing. Like I'm going to see if I can make a short thing. So first, we as artists we are involved on what is the game. We know first the constraint about the style, the theme, everything. So then when we start to create, we don't have this problem. This is something
Right,
because we know this game, we work for that, and we adapt everything as an artist to be aligned with the aesthetic. And so then, when we have a design from a game designer, I had to mention that game designer and artists are like this. So
right,
it's very important that we as artists we work very close. When the game designer share an idea, it is always on the way to share like an abstract context for doing things. So then you have a lot of freedom. The freedom is has boundaries, right? So I you understand what I mean when I say boundaries.
yeah,
We are more creative when we have these limits.
right. Got you. Cool. So jumping on to, so we'll just take one question and we're gonna just end this because I feel this is very important as well. I mean, so we have a question from Varsha. So artists often works extended hours. So what is your advice to deal in such crunching situations? Like how should they balance their work life and stuff? I mean, yeah, yeah. So balance the work life.
All right, so that depends of the project and then depends of your contracts. Sometimes when you are freelancer, you are get in that problem because that is something that you cannot balance sometimes. You are going to have more requests and then you are a freelancer. So you wanted to complete that also to support you economically in a good way. So I was in that trap, say, okay, I'm working painting the background for this movie. If I take more, I'm going to have more freedom. This is not so. It's important that you take like as a daily routine, so that you can set up a daily routine. So this is my period of time. I'm going to totally be focused on this. Because if you are a freelancer and you break the things, then you're going to be in a complex situation. For companies, it's a different thing because normally in game development we work on sprint or agile processes, so then the time is managed in a way that is good time for you to finish that because it's
Perfect.
an agreement. It's a decision of the team to do this in this period, to test, to do stuff. So you have to be aware of that to be, effective. Be
Right,
effective is good if we have this constraint. It's better that you
right,
know how to do things in 1 hour, but not to say, okay, I'm going to do that, but maybe I'm going to go extra hours. It is better to say, okay, I have this time, I'm going to focus on this. So it's a good exercise for your imagination, for your productivity, for everything.
right. Perfect. So, Gabriela, I guess we are really ran out of time. In fact, probably, I guess, so getting continuous messages. So, I guess we have to. I mean, like, what are your closing notes? I mean, just to conclude this and in this session, hopefully, we can catch up again and have
Oh
this
yes,
chat.
yes, I will
This is
be.
interesting.
I will love to have more time and other sections. So, yes. So for the artists that we talk about from sketch from to final art, I think from the artist, it is good to reflect what really they love, what really they wanted to do, because if you see game as it's very big. So and be open for possibilities of different skills and learnings because that is going to be opportunities that you never thought. I
Right.
never thought that I was, finalized. Like art director for video games. So, but there was a big motivation for me to do this part of learning for me and my process for develop myself as well. So if you, that's the things, if you like to work with people, if you like to work with UI, if you only love particles and VFX, so be more special in some areas also will help them to find good opportunities rather than to have like, I
Awesome.
don't know, I like everything, right?
Right.
So sometimes you
Yeah.
have to go to straight
Be a
to
specialist is what the
one point, then
right.
another, then another.